mine and then you. So some days we get a few and some days it's really weirdly empty. It's better than no one.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so Yep.
I forgot to unmute us, so do you want to ask for public comment again, just to be sure?
Oh, sure. Is there anybody that wants to make public comment that on anything that is not on tonight's agenda? You can raise your hand if you're online or Dr. Nearpass. No? Okay. All right.
Great. Okay, so before you tonight is a work session item, and it is to provide a recommendation to the town council on the proposed code change regarding refuse management. Because we weren't quite sure which way this would go, we decided to have planning commission make a recommendation, which is the first step for an official ordinance reading. However, instead of bringing it right to council for a first reading, whichever way you decide to go, we're going to bring it to a work session this coming Tuesday so that they can discuss it, hear your comments, because if they don't want to have an amendment to the code, we don't want to bring forward an actual ordinance at a first reading. So the packet, this came up this week, we decided to throw it on next week's town council. So I think I said it was going to go to first reading. It's actually going to go to a work session, just to make sure the council understands what's going on and that they hear your recommendation. And then we even see if anyone wants to move any amendments forward.
So this isn't actually a code amendment. Was it just a work session?
This is a work session to get it. Yes, it is a code amendment and it is providing a recommendation to the council. So normally it would go straight to the first reading, but we're going to put an in-between step and also have them have a work session to discuss it. Because we weren't sure how planning commission, because there was hesitations over any kind of amendment last time. And so we just were afraid if we tried to keep moving it for a first reading, the planning commission may not support it tonight. I don't know. And if not, the council, we don't know at all how they feel about this topic. So work session, you're going to provide a recommendation to council. It'll go to them. They'll have a work session Tuesday. If they support changes, it will then go directly to first reading with them because you've already provided a recommendation.
Okay, so we're not going to see this again.
You won't see it again.
Okay.
Unless somehow they ask to bounce it back to planning commission. So yeah, sorry, that was a little bit of a change that just came up this week. A lot of these slides are the same ones I presented last time when we discussed this back in July. And so I'm going to just do a very quick refresher on it. I'm happy to get into more detail, but I also know, I think you all remember it was only 2 months ago, a little bit of the background. So I'll let you ask questions if you have them more than me talking through it. But just as a reminder, this came about in result of the ordinance in 2022, basically regarding universal recycling. And in that ordinance that was approved by the town and is now part of the town code, haulers must deliver recyclable containers to all commercial customers, and that includes residential, that's 5 or more units. So every development in town that exists or is going to be built has to add recycling if they don't have recycling. If they have to add recycling because they don't have it, then they trigger the screening requirements in chapter 180, and they have to build 4 walls and a roof over that newly required recycling facility. It can be a giant recycling facility, or it could be a toter, and they have to build an enclosure per town code, the way it reads. So what we talked about, what we heard from and why we started talking about considering changing the code is that existing developments, both residential and commercial, are expressing concern over the 2 things primarily. One, the cost that they may not have budgeted for within their HOA to engineer and construct a enclosure. And then 2, some of them have concerns over the space where we allow you to use 3 parking spaces by right for trash and refuse or recycling. But even the commercial ones are really stating that they don't have extra spaces to give up, that they're assigned to either residential units or they're assigned to tenants and they can't just take away 2 spaces. So the reasons we're bringing this up is that we have heard some frustrations about this new burden being placed on them. Whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't really matter. We're just asking, does the town want to provide a waiver or a way to get them, if they already exist and they have to put in recycling, to not have to pay that money to screen it and put in screening?
So the waiver is only about the screening, not about requiring recycling.
Correct. So in the ordinance itself, they can get a waiver from the town manager for up to 2 years to not provide recycling. So that you can kind of push the problem off, and there's not really clear guidelines. The town will have to write those if that's how we're, the only option they have, because we will have people applying for that. So the option that exists right now is you can apply and ask the town manager to not require you to put in recycling. If you don't go that route and you follow the ordinance without a waiver, or if it's denied, you have to put in recycling, and therefore you have to provide 4 walls and a roof per our chapter 180.
That's if you
requirements.
can't fit it in an existing enclosure.
Correct. Now, they could definitely reduce the size of their dumpsters if they already have an enclosure. Not everyone does, but those that do, they don't seem to think that's a viable solution either. They don't think this is gonna really limit the amount of trash. Concern has been brought up that they can advertise as much as they want, but it's hard to change people's habits, especially short-term rentals. And they are afraid of reducing their actual dumpster size until people actually get used to recycling more. So that's just hearsay of what we're hearing and why it's before you. Just to clarify, if somebody already has recycling, they don't have to provide a screening. It's granted legal non-conforming in place, so, okay. All right, so then skipping ahead, this is kind of goes through all of the requirements that were in the code that we went through last time, so I'm not gonna remind you of all of it. So coming back to the planning commission on July 18th, and Kelsey is completely fine because it's a work session now, and it's like a new topic, basically, new proposed amendment. You missed the last meeting. So it's completely fine. You missed it, and you can still vote on the recommendation. Commissioners affirmed the need for enclosures to aesthetically screen dumpsters and requested a strict criteria for a variance or a waiver. And I don't know if you remember, but we all brainstormed. We proposed a few ideas as staff. None of them seemed like a great fit, which we agreed with. We, at that time, planning commission and staff thought, why don't we put it under the administrative adjustment category? But then staff went to go do that and realized the administrative adjustment is really based on percentages and numerics. So you get a 10% reduction. This didn't fall under how it's written, and it would have been really weird to just put it in there. It didn't really make sense once staff actually looked at it. So we kind of decided to take the same direction as far as having potentially an allowance, continuing with that concept. So there is an option for people. And instead of the actual administrative adjustment, we put it under the trash regulation section of code. That's the 6.17. And this is exactly what was in your packet. With this, what it has is the section above it. So you would have seen all that in your attachment, is the section that states that multifamily, residential, mixed use, non-residential developments can use 3 parking spaces. If through administrative approval, when the director finds the following criteria have been met. So we took that same language as far as setting up the paragraph to what we already allow for parking spaces, which in case you were wondering why it's an administrative approval and why it's director, would just copying what's allowed for the paragraph above it for the parking space reduction. And with that said, we're basically suggesting that if they have been constructed and received a CO prior to July 1st, 2025, then they can submit a request to the director to administratively exempt screening. And that if they do, they have to show that the recycling facilities are provided as wildlife resistant. Adequate space exists for the recycling collection facility to be accessed by service vehicles, and that the homeowners association has signed an agreement with the director, meaning the community development department or the town of Frisco, stipulating that the building will maintain a contract for ongoing recycling and service is to be provided in a wildlife resistant facility. So that's just trying to say if down the road there's an animal problem and maybe there was not a wildlife resistant one like they told us there would be, we could call them out because of this requirement that they said they were going to comply with for the future. And then if they propose partial screening, such as 4 walls but no roof, then the proposed structure shall meet all building and safety codes. So that is coming down to just trying to still get screening, but perhaps save them the money in engineering that adding the roof really, I think, adds to these. And so if they had 4 walls, then in theory, we're getting the screen. We don't have the aesthetic that the planning commission was worried about. And we also don't have the concern of things blowing around town. So this is a proposal, definitely open for comments.
Talk about providing plans for people?
Yes, and so we
Okay.
did, and we didn't get to that part. That's probably gonna be a question with town council because it gets into budgeting. I did find out the town does provide approximately $60,000 budgeted. That's for just one lump sum to help towards this. So it's not a lot of money, but people can actually apply for a grant and get part of that. As far as the cost of what, we don't have a good comparison, and honestly, I'm not gonna put you on the spot, Andy, but you probably have a better one. The two I have are very high. The town hall one was actually well over $100,000. And the new one that went up by the tennis courts at Emily Lane is valued at $50,000 based on their building permit submittal and what they paid. So you're,
That's how much, 100?
Yeah.
we're well over
For
100,000.
this.
That other one seems like fancier.
I thought that was surprising too.
I was like, they had to do a bunch with the concrete.
Yeah.
Tennis courts too, so that might have been part of the cost.
I
of
think
it.
a lot of-
Yeah.
Huh?
Like every day.
I think there's garage doors on one by the tennis courts.
Is there? Okay. So yeah, 50,000 for that one.
Cheaper.
That one's a lot cheaper.
And what is,
Not
is the
all.
town gonna go around and identify which property needs it?
Programs already has, because he's been telling everyone they have to be in compliance. He's been going to everybody to tell them this ordinance comes into effect. You have to be ready to be in compliance by June 1st next year. And that's what started bringing the questions to community development about the screening. So he's kind of tracking what's out there and who needs to add it.
How many are there?
A lot, because you think of all your fourplexes and fiveplexes around town who just use toters. And a lot of people take their recycling to the recycling centers, I think, for those, and I don't know if anyone here wants to comment.
We have recycling on ours, but they're all push, they're just toter ones, so
Yeah,
So those don't have to be screened.
no, because I think we're
They are
grandfathered in.
screened, they're in a garage or
No.
whatever, no?
They're outside.
so if they weren't there already and they were putting them in, they would have to screen them.
Oh,
Yeah,
I see.
and so I think there's more than we realized.
We had talked, I thought, when we talked about these exemptions, that it would be a limited time exemption. So it wouldn't say you never have to screen, but you can delay having to screen, so you can get it into your HOA
Yeah.
budget in a year.
And I
or two.
admit, I didn't know how I could get that into the actual code language with this. If anyone has any ideas.
Space to build an enclosure. Like, what do you do with a delay?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know how that's handled typically.
And then I see it's not, this is like a completely new almost situation in the town. That I don't think any of us really dealt with this. You have to do this. And a screening's required in a,
Right.
yeah.
Is it exempted from lot coverage?
It is exempt from lot coverage,
And you
luckily,
can put it in a front.
You cannot
not
put
a
it in-
front
nope.
setback,
not in the front
but
setback.
sides or rears.
Correct.
But it has to access the street, so.
Yeah, exactly. You have to, yeah. I can run through if you trying to remember a couple of those. A central core district, they can propose it in a different location. That was one of the suggestions that we didn't like, staff either.
You could propose it in a different location, but it still needs to be screened.
Correct, it would still have to be screened, so that would address we don't have room back here. Or we don't have room next to our, because it's supposed to be next to our close proximity to the trash. If they say we don't have room next to the trash, we can't meet the code, but we can come over here, then they can do that in the central core.
This is a dumb question. Does trash have to be screened or just recycling?
Trash has to be screened.
Okay.
So on that, like, what triggers the requirement for a dumpster enclosure? Sorry, or like a dumpster?
So we don't have a threshold, that's the tricky part.
Oh.
It's basically any trash, any refuse or recycling facility. And so it basically even comes down to a toter.
I would say the majority of places in Frisco though, just have dumpsters sitting out there, like.
A lot of places.
That's why I think that we'll be surprised at how many are out there. That need to add recycling.
Isn't there something in the code that requires you to have enough space for recycling in a dumpster enclosure?
Yes, now there
So
is.
that's for new, that's for anything that was built.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's really, the problem is these developments that are already built out. That's really what the problem, and we can definitely say the plan, and that's why I didn't know which way the planning committee, it's such a weird situation, try to figure out into how to go with, what to go with. Which is why even in your staff report, there's findings But then there is a recommendation for approval and disapproval, because I really wasn't sure how the planning commission felt about this one. And if you have ideas to try to keep modifying it, we can do that. It's just a little stuck on.
What's the number one goal? Is the number one goal to get recycling?
Correct. The goal is to have recycling.
To even extend this further for people? So like, number one goal is let's get recycling and get that working. And then later, the aesthetics of getting stuff screened and making town look pretty. Is there a way to stage that in the code so that it's
So
not
that's,
like
I
you
think,
have
what
to
Andy
do?
was getting at. is,
Yeah,
Can we have something similar to what you see that's proposed, but also having any administrative approvals shall be void within 2 years?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Like that.
That gives you time to get it in the budget, you know, people say, oh, it's not in the employee budget, it's just. It's,
Right.
I didn't see the fine.
50K seems so steep
It's a
for.
lot.
I'm sure. you
So
could
$500
go
a
less
square
than that, but probably not a lot, once you get engineering and a roof on it.
And all the approvals have to go through planning commission on these?
No, they're administrative
Okay.
approvals and they get building permits.
Are all dumpster enclosures required to have a roof?
That's the other catch.
So that's already in the code.
Mhm.
And if you absolutely don't have space, like I've delayed it twice, I don't have anywhere to put this,
the
just
business
screen it,
community.
what happens? Can you get a variance of some sort or
There's
no?
no option for them the way the code, they wrote that ordinance.
This is a crazy expense on a lot of HOA.
Which is
For
why
how
we felt
many-
like it was worth bringing up as a potential code amendment. Like someone made the comment the other day, oh, so if you bring this up, you get to go get it changed. And it's like, this is a thoughtful conversation to have
Yeah.
about the financial impact.
There's
Especially
other
this
times
is
when
like, wow.
HOAs are just struggling,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
everything's
They're getting hit with high insurance, now high trash bills, and now have to build an enclosure.
Why had high trash bills?
Well, just trash has like gone up quite a bit in
Mhm.
collections, like significantly. I know when my HOA was doing their budget, it was like snow removal is up over last year. Trash is up, water is going to go up. And it just seems like, oh, hey, now your HOA has a $50,000 to $100,000
Which I think is
requirement.
excessive also, like those are the only two examples I have, I think everyone can admit are big and fancy, but that's why it helps to have you say you don't think it could be a whole lot lower.
Not a lot lower by the time you get the whole thing built.
Cause you need engineering the walls regardless,
Yeah,
right?
and roof and.
And if you're
it's-
putting in a
it's
garage
slab
door,
and
you need
it's-
electricity.
It's down to
Now
frost
you're running
depth
electric
and-
into it. Not that you have to, especially for like a couple of toters, but.
One thing that just caught my mind is like, people can't even have this in the front setback, so it needs to be in the side or rear regardless, so thinking more about that, your trash, even if it's not screened, it's not out in the front setback. So, I don't know, just noting that. It doesn't make me
People
feel
aren't
like there's
saying it on the
trash
street.
everywhere, yeah.
That's a good point.
And also I want to be aware of just kind of what like say we approve this and say, okay, you have 2 years, and then just like the administrative burden on town of Frisco staff of like processing these and what's the
Keeping
best
track
use
of
of your
2 years.
time, you know, I don't know. It's a hard one.
Do we really expect that many? Like
I
that
know we'll
many?
probably get a flood at first of maybe 6 to 12 at least that we probably pretty sure will come in right away. And then I'm sure it'll slow down and then maybe the smaller ones will start, because it's not like the town takes a firm, you're gonna get a citation the first day that you don't comply with something either. But- Yeah, Nico might be
Online as well if we
Yeah.
want.
And Nico, raise your hand if you wanna hop on or join in. Thank you. I forgot he said he'd listen in case we need him. Keep going for now. Sorry, this is a tough one.
Separate out like a toter versus
Maybe do that.
like a
in the-
trash, like a, a dumpster. I mean, to me, they're different.
You can also increase frequency of pickup, right? So if they're worried about their dumpster overflowing, if they downsize the dumpster, then maybe you need to pick it up twice a week.
Is there a way to, I think we're too far past this, but is there a way to incentivize people to put screening instead of like?
It's already required.
But
Just the
again,
60
it worries me
won't
that that's the
cover.
whole budget for the town. I mean, it's not like it's gonna cover many, but it
Yeah.
helps someone or two.
Like, if you have a dumpster for trash and now you have to add the recycling, all of a sudden, it's just much more than, oh, you just need another toter. I don't know.
So people were
We're different.
grandfathered in on dumpsters that aren't enclosed right now. But because of a new trash rule, they're gonna be mandated to get recycling and then it will mandate the screen
And it needs to be
of
screened.
all of it.
Mhm.
Is that, am I just understanding that correctly?
Because once you go to modify that legal non-conforming use, you have to bring it into compliance.
Can we just grandfather everybody in somehow?
I mean,
At what point though, like, are they exempt from the recycling requirement?
Just the screening
Or
inclusion.
just the screening? So
okay,
they'd still have to provide recycling on site,
they still have to provide the recycling facilities.
but if they've
Because
been
of the-
going this long and not screened, then you don't screen it?
I just feel like it's. I mean, I hate to ask costs, but I do think there is a aesthetic, yes, issue of looking at dumpsters and trash cans and recycling. I don't know.
Remind me how many buildings you think we're talking about? I know you said maybe 6 to 12 will come in right
Yeah.
away, and then you expect some more. But are we thinking like it's 100, or are we thinking it's more like 30?
I'm gonna say much lower than 100.
Okay,
Yes.
and those,
And Is it mostly gonna be like the fourplexes that you were talking about, or is it commercial properties or
The
like?
one we've talked to has been Crossroads, that area. Also Natural Grocers, that complex. They don't wanna,
that one's new.
but
like-
they didn't put in a special recycling area apparently, or they need more.
Right, because they had to make space for recycling.
Same thought. The plaza though, sorry, I should have just said them. I think it's because it's the
Yeah.
whole complex.
it was a tight build.
So
But, okay, sorry, let's play. So when they built that dumpster, there was already a requirement that they make space for recycling.
and I don't know, I admit, I don't know if that was in the code for Natural Grocers. That was before my time here.
So like, what about like the complexes that are like in the alleys, like, for example, like Little Horn? And there's just, there's nowhere to build, like the dump is in the alley and you're like, but there's also, deed restrictions in there now. So you're gonna ask somebody who's living in our affordable housing to pay a $3,000 assessment for a trash enclosure?
If they don't have one.
I mean, that seems just like absurd to me when we're talking about how hard it is to employ locals and get local people and then say, hey, your trash just is not meeting our code and it's gonna cost you a ton of money. Cause I know there's complexes that have deed restrictions in there. I mean, I live in one that has it and it's just like, that
Do you have a
seems like.
dumpster enclosure?
Mm-mm.
Oh, you don't?
And that was approved, how many years ago for a remodel by the town of Frisco, and then it's got 4 units in there. And I'm like, so if I would put on a low side of 20,000, it's like, that's a $3,000 assessment to people.
It kind of feels like you just want to make the situation better, right? So adding recycling is making it better. So that seems like a great step. And if that's all we can get, then we've already made that project better. If we can get screening, if it makes sense, but it feels like these waivers, to me, if there's no room for it,
Yeah,
that's, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, like you can't just-
Force that.
but I
Because you're
feel like too,
taking
we need
space.
better solutions, like. Here are things that are on the very affordable side that fit into our town code that. That it doesn't have to be, like the one on Emily Lane there, that is just like the Mercedes of trash enclosures.
Very fancy.
But like, I feel like we need more options because you are gonna ask like a lot of the deed restricted properties that bought in and had no idea, that it's like. This,
Maybe it could just be a screen wall from the right of way.
I think we need more options for the locals that are gonna get hit in these multifamily complexes that are lacking it. Because it is on the more affordable side of product in Frisco, like the Legends and Estates on Galena and all these projects that have come through that have way bigger capital budgets for all of their improvements. And you're looking at things that, you know, people are thinking about their roofs, their homes in general. And then it's like, okay, this is gonna be huge just because of a town code amendment. I feel like just because of some trash things, we gotta find some more reasonable solutions for our locals.
Okay, do you guys feel strongly about trash facilities being screened?
No,
New project.
I would love them all to be, because I think that it looks better and it is an aesthetic, but I know the ones that are out there from walking around that I can identify 10 just on my usual dog walk. And I'm like, I know that these are the people that are the locals that are living here, that's gonna be a huge expense to them. And if we could find a better solution that would be more reasonable, that will allow it to be engineered this way, and here's kind of what makes that cost. I think that Andy makes a great point.
You're headed, it's like, if the number one goal is to get recycling, let's focus on getting recycling and getting that working.
Not,
So,
You know?
punishing people for adding recycling.
Yeah,
Let's
because then
get that
it's like,
going.
okay, so everybody feels, what about you, Jessica? You're the only. Do you feel strongly about screening? I mean, do we feel strongly about screening trash, trash facilities? Or can we say new recycling doesn't have to be screened?
New buildings is different
Yeah.
than new recycling that's required.
A new
based on
project,
this.
for sure, it's all
Yeah.
required.
A new project for sure, but for all these existing situations, is there a way to say recycling is not a trash facility? And therefore doesn't need to be screened? Or is that
it
going
just
way too
needs
far?
more time for options, like the goal should be to eventually.
To
get
eventually
this.
get there, but
It's naturally screened on 3 sides and there's only one side that you can see from a right of way, then just a single wall might be nice. So
Yeah,
it'd be
like
good if
even
there
just
were
doing
options for, like,
fences.
I hate to put a lot, I mean, that puts a lot on you guys to decide like case by case.
Mhm.
But that's
What's
what this
appropriate.
proposal does too, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if number 4 could be modified to say partial screening shall be proposed, you know, unless, and again, it's hard
Yeah.
criteria to add there, but maybe somebody just has like a little corrugated metal fence on wheels and it just goes right in front of
Yeah.
it, and that's
Yeah.
simple
I
enough.
think that's the only side you.
And that's,
So what about,
so it wouldn't be just not no roof. It's like, it's screened, but maybe it's just a wall, like what you're saying, something more simple. It's not a whole structure.
It'd be case by case.
Partial screening will be
screening
considered.
shall be provided between recycling facility and right of way.
yeah.
I think
Or
there
public
just really
areas.
needs to be options. We sit here all day and talk about locals, and this
And
is a
you- and you
huge
have the
expense.
Flexibility, if you go out to a site and
Mhm.
it's true, you look at it, you're like, you're absolutely right, there's no way to
Yeah.
do this, and you need a way to be able to offer some middle ground, because again, we just want to make it better, right? If we're making it better, then you're heading in the right
I
direction.
think
Is there a
even
way to
just
put-
like putting up fences, you know, is a
Yeah.
very reasonable thing versus roofs and this and.
Fully enclosed
Just
with
great
electricity and
Yeah.
air
Like
conditioning.
that. Climate controlled trash bins. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It's ginormous.
So what do you think about what's proposed with the change number 4, that partial screening shall be provided between the recycling and refuse facilities and public right of ways?
Unless determined by the planning department that it's simply not feasible or something, like they need some type of release valve on that, but I know that makes it hard to write a regulation.
Yeah, that one it gets tricky to.
Yeah, but
But it leaves you guys the discretion to say what is appropriate in
Yep.
this situation. I think if we give you guys that power to make that call.
And if someone really couldn't even put in a fence between or movable screening of some type, then I think they could apply for a variance. And we wouldn't normally go for a variance, but it's not, I think they probably have a hardship if they can't
Right.
even prove to staff that they can put in. So I almost would say, instead of putting that follow-up. they
got
could
it.
put
So
in-
just to
The
understand,
variance process.
there's 2 levels. There basically would be this sort of like release valve here,
Yep,
and then there'd be the full variance
if you
process.
really couldn't put one
Yeah.
in.
Then that makes total sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
and just have there be a bar that's at least attainable,
Yeah.
a hardship.
Partial.
Yep.
That's a hardship. We
Yeah.
can't meet this.
Yeah, and they, yeah.
Mhm.
Cause if not, they could just put in, like you said, a movable wall or fence if needed.
Question about, sorry, about the date, July 1st, 2025. So,
So feel free to edit.
okay, because the ordinance goes in June 1st.
Yes.
But whenever the ordinance was approved that required space for recycling and recycling, to me, it should be like, those people should be able to comply. Because you should have space in your dumpster enclosure for recycling.
Which, yeah. So almost yeah, I see what you're saying.
You guys know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like, it feels like whenever that went in, all those dumpster enclosures accommodated recycling space, and so all those people shouldn't have an issue, and this date shouldn't be so far into the future
Bump it up.
to whenever that was.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's a good point. Because we know that everything you've looked at, planning commission has looked at, has provided and met the code, so.
My
I like it.
dumpster enclosure could fit 20 recycling bins.
It's just unfortunate that there's people that live in buildings that already have it, and then like some of the people that the town just let this go forever now are shouldering like a huge bill. And that's where I think we have to have options, because it's like, it's different when you're planning on it with a new development and meeting those codes, but when you have setbacks or you like lose parking for it, and then it's like, is this all just for aesthetics? And then we're losing, burdening people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Have to
no
lose some
storage, it's like
areas.
what, we gotta pull back and look at the forest a little bit here to see like, what are we trying to achieve other than this, like. Yes, we're getting a great thing happening, recycling, but. The more financial burdensome it is, it's like, what's the point here?
Do you feel that we're getting there though by modifying number 4 to have like a partial screening?
I do, I just think like we're rushing it a little bit without knowing like, what are these options gonna be, what do they look like?
And we can always come back, like after it starts getting implemented, part of the reason we're trying to get it now is people are getting really worried, like they're constantly calling us the same people, because they're like, we're kind of freaking out, like, we don't know how to balance our HOA budget, we need to know if we need to do a special assessment, because we don't know how we're gonna get it built by June. So a lot of it is the urgency of budgeting for HOA
Could
right
you-
now.
Could you do like use your 60,000 to do like some standard plans?
Maybe,
of, like,
that would
two
be, which people have
options?
asked us for, and we talked about last time, so we could ask.
And
the
like,
council.
how are HOAs getting notified? Cause like my HOA hasn't been notified and like.
I'll talk to Nico and Hillary about that and give them a follow-up later. It's a good question. Maybe he's only hit the big ones.
Yeah, and if you expect this by summer and there's just,
was.
do you not have screening at yours?
Oh, we do, but, you're saying,
Yeah.
we were notified of this, of the pay as you throw thing.
Hmm.
I wonder if they only targeted bigger complexes from so far. Do you know if yours heard from
Got
them?
notified, but we already had our recycling bins, yeah.
So it sounds like someone might have gotten notified over there.
Not me.
Okay, so just to recap for the council to make sure I have it right also. Planning Commission agrees recycling is an important and the priority for the town. However, some type of screening for aesthetics should be provided. And so we're gonna propose this, we're gonna change the date on B to be the date of the ordinance was adopted back in 2022, whatever the date that was. And then we're going to change number 4 to completely remove that and replace it with partial screening shall be provided on refuse and recycling facilities between them and the public space right of land. I'll say land because then if they're next to a park, it kind of gets that. Yeah.
Sorry, number 4 is if partial screening is proposed.
No more if.
Oh.
They're gonna be required to provide. It would say partial screening shall be provided.
Oh, I see. Cause you're getting, a waiver. But you're still required to provide partial screening?
Correct. The waiver is basically giving you allowance for wildlife resistant and a partial screening is a way around it.
It's a waiver from the whole full-on enclosure. It's hard because it's like we're going from nothing to like a full-on thing. So we're saying, go, just put a couple fake trees or whatever.
Yeah. Something.
A little fence.
What were you gonna say? Sorry, Chris.
Actually, you addressed it with the public land, because I wanted to make sure it wasn't just public right away, that it was parks and trails and, you know, Forest Service, all that stuff.
Can it be landscaping?
Screening, I think, is landscaping in the code. Sorry, I put Emma on the spotlight for every code question. She said, I haven't been here that long to memorize it. I think screening can be in the terms of landscaping, but we'll check.
Okay.
If,
I would like to include it if it's
yeah,
not already
if
included,
it's-
because I
okay.
think that's a
I'll
great
check that before I bring it to council.
option.
Let me make sure I can read my note here.
No fig trees.
Okay, not fake trees.
I have trees. Okay, so, sound good?
Mhm.
Thank you, everybody, for helping out with that one. I definitely appreciate the feedback and thoughtfulness. So if we're good talking about it, you should open it up to public comment, just to open it.
Okay. I'd like to open this up to public comment. Is there anybody in the audience in the chambers that'd like to speak? Seeing none, if you're online and would like to speak, unmute yourself and raise your hand. I don't see anybody wanting to make a public comment, so let's see. Next.
No, we didn't find the packet online. Was there a
Yeah,
packet
there
today?
was no packets.
I can't look right now.
There was nothing.
And I just thought it was me.
Either.
I figured
Agenda
it was
item.
just gonna be a super short meeting.
It's like we were
If you
changed.
don't see it, let us know, because it should have been up.
Staff reports are.
It's in the
Yeah.
budget for projects under review, but there might not have been a packet.
You know what, where did you go to the agenda to link it, to open it? I bet you Kim didn't know to do it there, and she put it in the Ninja table, the table that has plans up for review. Sorry, that was her learning curve. We will make sure she knows to put it on the agenda also. Sorry, I'm like, I know she put them up there last Friday, but yes, please always, if you can't find them, outreach, because we didn't know. So, thanks. Well, and now I feel bad you didn't get to look at any of this ahead of time. We thought it would be really quick, because we
Great
thought you had
presentation.
read this and you were all ready, and now I know I got some blind stares during it. I was like, I don't get this. Okay, we'll improve that for next time. Okay, so.
So we need a
We
motion.
will
on
now
this.
proceed with further planning commissioner discussion and a possible motion on this agenda item. Anybody want to make a motion?
Well, I
Do we need more discussion?
We're recommending approval with the
Sydney.
comments that we.
With the changes that we talked about.
All right, then I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
With respect to planning file number UDC 24-0001, I move that the recommended findings set forth in the September 19th, 2024 staff report be made with the addition of the comments made at tonight's planning commission meeting, and the planning commission recommends approval to the town council of code text amendments to chapter 180 of the Code of Ordinances of the town of Frisco, Colorado concerning the Unified Development Code by amending section 180-6.17 refuse management.
All right, can you call the vote?
Connolly,
Yes.
Day,
Yep.
Forsyth,
Yes.
Lesmus,
Yes.
Stabile,
Yes.
Withrow.
Yes.
Great, approved unanimous. Next item on the agenda is planning file number UDC 24-0002. A public hearing to consider amending chapter 180 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Frisco concerning the Unified Development Code by amending sections 180-5.1 and 180-9.3 concerning natural medicine services pursuant to the National Medicine Health Act of 2022. And I will turn it over to Katie for a staff report.
Thought this one was gonna be really easy because you all read it and so. I apologize you didn't get that prep on it. Okay, so before you on this one. Start show. Okay, proposed amendments to chapter 180, 5.2.15, you'll see as it comes up is a new insertion into the code for a definition of healing center, which is the same as the definition provided in these new regulations that we have to be able to incorporate. 9.3 is adding a new definition into the code for natural healing centers, and I have those on here. So what we're looking for you from the planning commission tonight is again, a recommendation on a ordinance to the town council on the proposed code changes. Town council is anticipated to have a first reading of the ordinance on October 8th. In full disclosure, this one comes directly and exactly from our attorney, and what he wants us to do as a town. So as I go through it, this is his direction, and he has already, I'll go into this, he's already talked about it with town council. And this is kind of coming to you. You can provide comments, but it also has what the town attorney thinks is best for our town to be doing right now.
But that's at the direction of the council? At the direction of the
Which
council?
we'll get into how
Okay.
it went to them already. So a little bit of background is that the Natural Medicine Health Act of 2022, through that act, over the next coming months, Colorado will adopt rules concerning license and operation of healing centers at which individuals may receive natural medicine services. And these quotes are because they're picked up into words we're bringing into the code amendment. Just that's the only reason they're in quotes. That include guided administration of natural medicine, including, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say this, like, thank you. And also known as magic mushrooms. Okay, so through this act, towns are granted the authority to regulate the time, place, and manner of the operation of healing centers. The towns may not prohibit their operation entirely, nor prohibit the provision of natural medicine services if a facility or individual has been permitted by the state to provide such services. So you can treat it as a use in zoning and where it can go, but you can't say it can't go anywhere in town, essentially. And then they will have to follow all of the requirements through the act, which is more complex, obviously. Some of you may seen this week in the Summit Daily, they had an article about how Breckenridge is looking at it. Breckenridge is, and I don't know about Summit County, I haven't seen what they're doing, but Breckenridge is looking at like buffer zones similar to our marijuana. We're trying to make it a lot easier and basically just refer people to that act as far as specific requirements of what to comply with. And I'll get into where we're suggesting it's allowed. So why it's it seems backwards, because I know planning commission should see code amendments first. The town attorney brought forward to the town council on July 23rd that this was upcoming and told them that the town code needed changes. Should be modified to prepare for this. At that time, council directed staff to move forward with incorporating the new natural medicine uses within chapter 180 of the town code, which is then when it bounced it into community development, basically. The recommendation by council was to permit them where medical office uses are permitted currently. The definition of medical office, you'll see it in a minute. It's where we're proposing to add this to. It's very similar. Also, there was a lot of discussion at council about kind of the description of what's used and how it's pretty much just grown and administrated there. So it's not, you shouldn't have smells. You shouldn't have outside sources being affected or neighbors or anything. Traffic counts are going to pretty much be the same as an office. It's just incorporated. So that was where the initial idea came from the attorney and council to staff and now to planning commission to discuss.
Do we get to a point where we hear where those medical offices are currently permitted?
I will bring that up because I don't have that in here, so I'll bring it up though. Thank you for asking.
Can I ask?
Well, I'll just let you finish in the.
So we're looking at two simple changes. One is adding into the definition of office medical examples. So the part, I'll read it all since you haven't looked at this anytime fresh. The part in yellow red is what we're proposing to add. The white font already exists. So you can see as I read it, it already includes integrative medicine and holistic or homeopathic therapies. So we even wondered if we had to add it, but we decided to be on the safe side. So we didn't have to question in the future if it fell. That's where we're going with this. So office medical would be defined as a building or portion of buildings that contains establishments dispensing health services and or that provide support to the medical profession and patients. Examples include, but are not limited to, a healing center under the Colorado Natural Medicine Health Act of 2022, as amended and as codified, and that is the state statute where it is. By having that in here, if that section of code is modified, say the buffer changes and something goes from 1,000 feet to 500 feet, we don't have to change our code to keep up. It's just stating it has to follow that state statute.
To be clear, there are distance requirements in the state statute.
I believe so, yes. Medical and dental laboratories, yes, there are. I shouldn't say I believe so. There are. I just couldn't quote them to you. Medical and dental laboratories, blood banks, oxygen providers, integrative medicine, and holistic or homeopathic therapies, and other miscellaneous types of medical services. So if planning commission doesn't think that's in line, definitely speak up and say something. That's kind of where the town is thinking it would fall pretty easily.
Where does pharmacy fall?
Pharmacy, good question. Wish I brought down a hard copy of the code. I'll get back to you on that one tonight. I'll look into that. I think it might be retail.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Because there's, 2 or 3 pharmacies on Main Street, and so
Yeah.
would they be allowed to?
It's retail, but that's a really good question. And I'll pull up the tables.
Prescription alternative.
And then, maybe I'm just thinking of the holistic place by Rivers,
Then
Yeah.
apothecary, yeah.
Apothecary, yeah, so just two, I
Yeah.
think.
Okay,
And then also
Well,
like
that's the
oxygen bars
Acuvation
would be
place
able to
in the
just,
Frisco Mall, so.
would they wouldn't have to change their use or anything.
Either.
They could just.
It'd be the
Transition.
same, correct?
So this is where someone can buy psilocybin or
No,
they?
they get admitted, they go in front of a specialist to
And they're
take it.
doing it
And
there.
they're doing it there and being watched. And then when they're ready to leave, they leave.
I'm sorry, dumb questions, but how do you take it? You eat it? You eat it, okay.
I apologize, I don't know.
I think there's, I think so. You just it will be.
yeah.
It's in a capsule or other forms.
Can you ingest it in any other ways? Like, can you smoke
Maybe a
it?
public
Sorry.
comment might have health. Potentially. So before we go too far, I'm gonna pull out the table.
So is there actually anywhere that this could be?
Well, I think
Yes.
there's some zones it would be maybe a conditional use. Some zones it would be permitted by right,
Yeah,
depending
and
on
I'll
which
show you
allow
that, right.
medical offices.
We find medical office and then I'll share my screen. All right. Okay, so if one has the gray highlight, I'll read it so you can kind of see. Basically, the first one says medical office. It's a conditional use in Gateway, which is over by the roundabout Safeway area, that area.
So not even a conditional use in any residential neighborhoods.
No RS, no RN, no RL, no RM, and no RH. Now I'm gonna get to a disclaimer about that when I get to my next slide back on the presentation, but medical office cannot go there. It is allowed by right in the commercial oriented, the light industrial, so you're looking at 10 Mile and Summit Boulevard areas in that. Central core, so Main Street, and then mixed use, so West Main Street, a little bit of Summit Boulevard.
And the GW, is that what we're calling our gateway?
Gateway,
Yeah.
yep.
So it's a conditional use in the gateway.
And where are medical marijuana establishments, is that?
So retail or the other one,
Oh, it's 2 different ones.
yeah,
I think it was right above medical.
that's it, thank
It
you.
was in that same section. Or yeah.
Thank you. So a dispensary, not same for the Rs. It is allowed by right in Gateway instead of I think that was a conditional we had read. And then by right in CO,
All in central core.
LI, and not in Central Core. So it is a little different than medical office. I think it's more restrictive.
And I'm guessing retail marijuana is the same,
Yep.
not allowed on Main Street. And what about her question about pharmacies? Is that a different category?
Can you search pharmacy on yours? If not, we'd have to put it under an existing definition, which we can do. I want to see if in the definitions we have I can, but I'd rather not share my screen and be searching through the code. Sorry. It looks funny then. I can, but since we've got Chris with her computer. Do you have any other questions while she's looking that up for right now? I don't know if it's personal services, retail, there's a few options it could be. I'll go ahead and look too.
So we.
Specifically in this, Katie, that you're wanting comment on?
No, just if you support it or not. And if you don't, it'd have to probably have a pretty good reason. So,
That's coming after you if you disagree.
yeah, so pharmacy is not actually defined. So we'd have to find something that we thought it went through. And so as staff, we'd probably look at either, depending on exactly how it's being used, potentially retail or else personal services, but that's more, I think, like barber shop and things. So I don't think I'd actually put it under that one, probably retail, which is allowed pretty much any of the commercial areas. Let me give you the one other suggested change so you can see it, because it also answers your residential question.
The buffers you mentioned, you didn't know how big they are, but that's gonna be from schools,
It's from schools.
just schools. Is that the only thing there's
don't
really a
know.
buffer from?
Actually,
Like, is there maximum number that can occur in town, or is there distances from each other?
I can check all that.
Okay.
Actually, sorry, I did print the packet. I have it in the packet. I just remembered. So it'll be a little quicker to find all that.
So if you define pharmacies as retail, does that mean pharmacies can administer psilocybin on Main Street?
No.
I don't think they could anyway, because it has to be a special health practitioner who's certified to do it. Yeah. Okay, so just, and I'll look at those setbacks, because sorry, this was in the packet and you guys didn't see it. Other proposed change is adding a new section. This is where we have little section blurbs to expand on uses. So you see it in the table of uses when you have an extra thing that go to this so you learn more about a medical office, for example, this would get put there. This is what Thad wants us to put in for healing centers. And he is matching the matching definitions here. And so a healing center is a medical office that engages in the activities and provides the services of a healing center as defined in the Colorado Natural Medicine Health Act of 2022, as amended the act, and that has been licensed by the state of Colorado pursuant to the act. And so basically they can't come in and say that they're a healing center. They also have to show that they've been actually. Yep. And then this is the clause, this is through the act. In addition to the zone districts that allow for medical office use, natural medicine services as defined in the act are permitted to be provided at any private residential location at which such service is allowed to be provided under state regulations promulgated under, and then the citation for the state statute. So this statute of the Natural Medicine Health Act allows it to be at somebody's home under certain requirements. And so we can't say it's not. This is our disclaimer stating it is only allowed where medical offices, but we also understand there are exceptions to the state statutes and it can go in a certain home. But we don't want to make it look like you can put a whole thing into a residential
So
zone.
like, you can have a doctor come to your home and administer the, what's it called?
So it's any home. It's not,
Yeah.
okay, at any
Private
private residential location.
I even gave you guys this really fun article that was in the CML legal corner the other day, and I was like, "Great, I'm gonna give them this," and I was so excited. You were gonna love that you got this special article. I'm really disappointed right now. I'm not reading it to you. It gave you a little enlightenment about the topic to understand it.
It would still have to be somebody who's licensed to provide this service showing up in a private residence.
And I admit and fully this, I didn't take time to learn this. I kind of went with, this is what our attorney says will work for us. It makes sense based on what I'm hearing from definitions, medical office, and we're following the state, which is why I haven't dived into what the actual Health Act states. So two proposed changes. One would be that table of uses. And then the second is this extra adding in to give that disclaimer for the private residences. Do you want to, I can do a little skimming of this if you want to open it up for public comment now.
So are we done asking questions of the staff? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll now open it up to public comment. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to come up to the podium to speak. No?
I'm just listening.
Okay, that's okay.
If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to.
Do you know any of the answers to the questions we were asking?
Well, I mean, just, but
If you don't mind, just give your name and.
Yeah, I'm Kim Nearpass, Dr. Nearpass, so I own the Mountain River Naturopathic Clinic and the apothecary. And we don't do psilocybin, we don't sell it, we're not interested in it. I'm just here because I saw natural medicine and my husband said, go and hear what they're talking about. But so I have a little bit of familiarity. I don't know when it's even moving into a legal state.
Yeah, for a few months is what they said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is something, psilocybin, it's typically ingested. There may be ways that it's gonna be administered, I don't know. Usually as a tea, but do they have the ability to administer it via IV or IM? I don't, maybe someday, but typically it's oral.
And you don't sell it, right?
No. And we
Nobody
don't-
sells it. You just.
My understanding is that it won't, I mean, I don't know. These are details. It's like I said, it's not part of my training. It's not something that we're planning on doing. I mean, I don't know who in the community in the town of Frisco would be maybe some of I don't know who's gonna be doing it, like guiding people, but it is something where it's a professional administering typically orally, either as a tea or eating the mushroom. But I don't have a lot of knowledge of it. I didn't know that it was even gonna be legal in Summit County. I didn't know that.
So it's
And it was in
been-
Denver County. I didn't know. it was-
Yeah, I know. It's gotta be in the whole state. So,
But my understanding is it won't be like the pot show. You won't
Right.
be able to walk into a store and buy it,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Very controlled.
Thank you for your comments.
As long.
You're doing a great job.
Anybody online want to provide a public comment? I don't see any raised hands, so we can close the public comments to this application and we'll now proceed with further planning commissioner discussion and a possible motion on this agenda. Do we want to go one by one in order?
Like Andy was ready.
Well, I don't,
Andy.
all I was gonna say is it seems like the only thing that's really kind of in our wheelhouse is if we wanted to make any recommendations on where.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
And to me, where it said it was gonna be allowed seemed like where it should be.
Yeah.
I didn't have any disagreement with that. I guess that would be a question that we probably could provide some feedback if we thought it should go somewhere else, but those seem like kind of the right, non-residential, central core, gateway as a conditional use.
Yeah,
Kind of seems
I think
right.
this is an easy add to the definition of medical.
I mean, it's
Center.
fine.
So do you guys, any additional comments on this side of the room?
I pretty much agree. I just am a little bit confused, just like logistically, why in the code it's allowed in the definition, but not allowed in the land use table.
Yeah, and that is only because
What do you mean?
the residential part, you're asking.
Yeah, how you can do it at
Second
any home, but if you look at the land use matrix.
Well, because it's not a business.
It wouldn't be a business in a residential district. It would
So
be
it's
in,
not a zoning
We
issue.
didn't want to say it's
Your house call.
all residential districts by right, because then you could get a health medical office anywhere in a residential district if
Right.
we did that. So what we did was continue to not allow a medical office in residential.
I get it.
But this gives the loophole, because if we didn't have this, it would be we'd be against the state law. Yeah.
So this allows somebody who's licensed to go to your home and administer it in privacy.
Yeah, it seems like there maybe should be like an asterisk in the land use chart.
Yeah.
That will then
There will be, that
Refer
table of
somebody-
uses will have one,
Okay.
like we do for other ones.
then refer to that definition. Okay,
No, great
no
question.
issues.
And if you have things you want the council to consider or think about, you can pass your questions on, and I'll tell that I'm happy to say I could not answer questions on how these worked. They were curious if you understand how it's anything, so it's up to you guys if you want me to pass on any questions for them to take into consideration with it also.
Additional comments, April, Kelsey?
No,
No?
this one's more
This
clear
one's-
cut to me. A little less dirty, should I say?
I don't have any issues either. I think what you're proposing is reasonable. I'd love to read the CML article though.
I know you would, so I'm gonna pass it over.
Oh, now I have to read it on the spot?
Right next.
Okay.
It's on our planning applications for review, under review table. It should be there.
I did just find that page and I was like, well, this is a helpful
That's
page.
even our dear.
Yeah.
Everything we're doing in town.
I'll never go to that page.
It's a great page.
I'm glad everyone now knows about that page.
Our packets,
Yeah, we need.
all getting there through the agenda.
Do you want to put up the motion?
Forgot we didn't finish. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome to come to any meeting.
Every other Thursday. All right, does anybody want to make a
I'll
motion?
make a motion. With respect to planning file number UDC 24 0002, I move that the recommended findings set forth in the September 19th, 2024 staff report be made, and that the planning commission recommends approval to town council of code text amendments to chapter 180 of the Code of Ordinances of the town of Frisco, Colorado concerning the Unified Development Code by inserting section 180-5.2.15 natural medicine services and amending section 189.3 general definitions.
I'll second.
We call the vote, please.
Connolly,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Forsyth,
Yes.
Lesmus,
Yes.
Stabile,
Yes.
Withrow.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. All right, now we move on to staff and commissioner updates.
List, okay, they're quick though. There will be no meeting on October 3rd. We have Kim, Emma, and Chris all are attending the State Planners Conference, the APA conference. So we are not gonna have a meeting that date. We are anticipating a meeting the 2nd October meeting, but at this time, we don't have anything scheduled. So if we don't have business, we won't make you come. We are anticipating get your calendars out, joint work session again on the comp plan. This time, we're allowing, I'd say like 2 hours, so you can actually discuss and not hear from us. So October 22nd, we're aiming for a joint planning commission town council work session on the comprehensive plan. And then
Do you think that'll be at 4 or 5?
4 or 5.
4 or 5, okay.
4 or 5, yeah. We try to do 5 to try to help you guys from work schedule. If you don't like that and you want them at 4, let me know. I usually ask if they could try to do it after 5.
I don't care.
Okay.
I don't know how everybody else feels.
And I don't get to quite guess, but if people do want to be on earlier, I could always, I have a say in how they schedule those things, so.
Housing related, right? No.
Oh, I see. what you're doing. In open space, yeah, it involves every chapter, so you all can find a way to call it work. There's something there for all of you. Yes. Okay, and then the next one for our hopefully last joint work session on the comp plan. We are looking to provide a 95% plan at town council on December 10th. And so we were like, do we invite planning commission? I'll have a final discussion, and we do think it's worth you guys being invited to have a joint one. And so that will be basically almost a final adoption time period for that.
This is comp plan.
That's comp plan also, December 10th. So yeah, so 10/22 and 12/10. And we'll keep you updated with emails. That also is a reason why we won't feel bad if we cancel both planning commission meetings in October, since we're asking you to come to a special one also. Okay. Housing strategic plan is looking to be adopted on October 22nd at town council. For those of you who are on the focus group, you're gonna have another focus group. I'm sorry, I can't remember the date. Maybe there will be another meeting and you'll get another draft and you'll dive into it. You'll be notified of that. So there's one more big day. There's also going to be a public open house just to get the community come provide final comments if they want to provide comments. Those dates are all be advertised soon. We're finalizing them with the consultants. It'll be in early October.
And there was also a survey or something that,
Yes, if you didn't take that, it was only went to the focus group or working group.
Oh.
So if you're on the, if you got that, please take it because only 2 people actually took it. So they opened it for longer.
Yeah, we have to put deadlines today.
Okay.
so I better go do it.
Yeah, maybe I missed this and I easily an email came through and I didn't see that or respond to it, but I feel like at that meeting, the consultant said, we're gonna send something out to you and then you'll respond about what you know,
Yeah.
we have these.
That's what this is.
Okay,
Is that what the?
I think so. Yeah, it's not necessarily.
but he said it would go to everybody, that, and if this is only going to them.
The actual, where they are, like the draft plan for comment.
Yeah.
I-
But I
I-
got to.
But it's
It's like long.
I know, I read a bit of it and then I decided I'll just wait for this thing that he promised that said, I'm gonna send you out. No, he said, I'm gonna send you these 30, things that we're trying to. Or, does anybody remember this? Am I being crazy? No. He said, we'll email you and you can take this survey and say, hey, you need to do more of this
I
or,
think that's what you have right now that they're waiting on.
The survey.
but I didn't get the survey because I wasn't on the focus group.
Oh.
I guess that's maybe what I'm saying. Right, like I have the whole plan and I read through it and I made some like comments myself, but yeah,
Okay.
I did sound like there was an additional thing.
Who is our second person on the housing group? Sorry, is that you?
Me, but I missed a couple meetings. Yeah.
This one too.
Let me look at it. Because we also, with our consultants, just yesterday, we had a check-in and we talked about, because we haven't gotten responses on this in-depth from the working group, we actually mentioned maybe we'll send it to planning, extend it a little longer and invite all planning commission and town council. And I don't know what James and the consultant decided, but maybe it's worth doing that. And then if you get an email, fill it out as soon as you can, because we're past our time we wanted feedback.
I think it would be. good,
Yeah.
Cause I feel like I had feedback at the meeting, but same, I was like, I don't know how to.
Yeah.
It was so quick, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And did you get like a copy of the draft plan? Oh, you had,
That
okay,
I think was just the working group. I'm trying to
It's a big
document.
to that.
It'd be nice if we didn't.
We were at the joint planning commission
Oh,
town council
yeah.
meeting, and at
Yes.
that meeting, he did say, well,
Yes.
we had received the draft plan up to that point,
Yep,
and I did kind of read through it,
and that, okay, yeah.
but there
you
wasn't,
did say that.
yeah, a lot,
Got it.
yeah.
Okay, so I think that it needs to come to all planning commission and council. Okay, thank you. Sorry, my updates weren't as quick as I thought, but we're getting a lot figured out of my mental health right now and where my brain's been blocked lately. Okay, thank you. We will get you the survey. It'll probably come from James or Ethan or Rainey, so, okay. All right, then, because we're gonna kind of try not to bombard people, but we are, do you want to give a quick update on our comp plan, public outreach that we're kicking off again?
Yes,
Thanks.
October 26th, so next Thursday, you don't get a Thursday off, sorry. We are actually doing 4 opportunities in which to participate in the comprehensive plan. We are doing a morning at Coffee Roasters. We are doing a session here at Town Hall. We're gonna be probably in the Peak One room and then in the lobby with the consultant team. And then we're gonna be doing an evening one at the Frisco Bay Marina as well as the Summit Middle School football game. So we're gonna, hopefully the weather stays nice for that one. If not, I'll just hand out business cards at the football game. So, but we're really excited and we're also gonna have drawings as well. Cause over the summer, people got paddleboard and kayak gift certificates. We're gonna do tubing and Nordic Center gift certificates for people who participate and throw their name in the bowl. So. Mhm.
Yeah, and we'll give all the planning commission an email as a reminder, probably Monday or Tuesday, so you can try to help spread the word. Also, we're gonna do 2 weeks after that, staff is just gonna go with the boards and do a few pop-ups. We'd like to hit like Walmart around lunch hour one day. And we're trying to think about like maybe a Thursday night football at a bar potentially where we might capture part of the community to get comments. So any ideas or outreach you have through your jobs or anything else where you think would be good for us to go to as a quick staff goes for an hour and does a pop-up, let us know. We're also hitting the elementary school on the same community date, but we're not advertising it because we don't want to bring the public to the elementary school. We just want to get the parents and kids to comment. So
Moose Jaw, 10 p.m.
Is that where we should go? We want them to be able to break
It'll
them.
be deferred.
We ended at the marina when people were leaning too close into our personal space at the concert. We're like, we're done. We're not taking any more comments. That was our closing in.
And we are doing a different kids activity this time, so to try to get some additional input from kiddos and so, yeah.
Everything's moving along fast right now. All right, update on dark sky, and that is that the council had directed town to pursue starting to look at becoming a dark sky community a few months ago, and due to staffing, we didn't do a whole lot for a bit. Emma has now got us officially in the pipeline. It does not mean we are going to become dark sky automatically, but we are entered into the pipeline with Dark Sky International, and we now can apply to get funding, to get training, or sorry, you want to give the explanation? Thank you.
Yeah, so we are now officially in the application pipeline. To work on our application, we're gonna apply also for some mentorship support to help us with that process, because there's some kind of technical things we have to do to measure existing lighting in the town. But yeah, that is moving forward.
So we need to put our timers up on our cute little lights.
And aim it
We
straight
have?
down.
Timers on lights.
The lights, the main street lights that don't meet the.
So we have not yet, but that is all part of this conversation that has been taking place amongst town staff and
I
things.
don't want them to go. I just think they go off at
Timers.
10 p.m.
Same thing as we've had people bring up the restroom at Walter Byron. The lights apparently on super late and it's not open, and we need to just start getting timers on our own lights. So the town is definitely working with Public Works is working to try to start some timers and things. The good thing is that town council was supportive of the town staff moving forward with this. We are approached by community members to implement it, so that's where we started it. So we wanted you to have a heads up because it's going to eventually, it is very planning related. And if you just to kind of, we'll keep you updated just out of your own interest, and then it may come into code amendments down the road that we want to talk about with you. So just so you know, that's part of it, what we have
Just-
going on.
Just a quick follow-up on that. Is it thought about at all to do a code amendment that sort of limits the amount of windows on the facade of a home?
We've talked about that, and that goes in with the color. So I'm pointing at individuals who have proposed things.
Uh-huh.
Design requirements, residential and non-residential, are on our list. And actually on my wall upstairs, I have the window size percentage of a
Great.
building wall. We've been waiting now because we feel like the comp plan will probably give us some guidance. Also, the housing plan is probably going to suggest that we should relax some of our architectural design guidelines. And so I think it's better to get into the design guidelines, including those, when we know if we want to reframe them for certain affordable housing projects to help lower the cost, because we have so many facade and details, it is prohibitive to encouraging affordable housing. So yes to those color, I have not forgotten color or window sizes. Yep. And in the
Window
yeah.
sizes, or you're
Worried about how much,
The percentage of windows of a facade, because it's like, great, we have exterior lighting regulations, like, okay, your exterior lighting's, downlit, but now
Downlit.
you have this whole facade that's windows and then the
Giant
lights
change.
on inside and that's really what's like more impactful to the neighborhood. It's more like the interior and then the amount of windows that are on that
Yeah.
So
facade.
these are ideas we'll bring before the town planning commission to see what you think of them. So there's kind of a long list. You may see a couple little things once in a while quicker just because there's so many on the list, and some things I just admittedly wanna move them forward, like utilities and transformers and meters aren't exempt from lot coverage. And generators are huge right now. Everyone's putting generators, and we're like trying to analyze lot coverage for generators. And it's like, for staff, it's just not worth it. Like, I'd like to just exempt mechanical equipment to a certain limit from lot coverage. And so I might bring some little things to you just that I would help staff. But the next update, you have all seen, I wanted to give you a heads up. The info center is under construction. That is a town project. You didn't see it as a planning commission because it's administrative. They're basically doing it to improve ADA accessibility. There will be ramps going into the front, and the bathrooms are going to be completely renovated. And then the back, the open space park area is going to be redone also.
Why did they take up the whole sidewalk for that though?
I know. It works that.
So no new enclosed space.
That's for
What's
like
that?
town
No new
projects.
enclosed space.
Get it?
no new
Well,
enclosed
this
space, but
other
they could get rid of
projects.
a bunch of trees and the gazebo, and I'm upset about it. That's okay.
I'm upset about them being completely blocking the whole street.
Yeah, can we talk about that for a second? Because I was gonna bring that up. Construction management, like why do we take up entire sites of streets?
So I can't answer why Public Works allows it right now or has historically. What I can tell you is that Emma has initiated conversations just this week with Chris McGinnis, the new Public Works director. We have, back when Bill Linfield was our consulting engineer, pretty heavily used, he had written us construction management plans, guidelines. That was never implemented or used. So Emma has found that, given it to Public Works, and asked them that if we could start the discussion and get more on track with what we want and how we're looking at construction management plans. So any comments you have like that, this is good timing, because the town will be working on what is actually required and when is required, because we don't have any real written documents for that we're using right now. So Emma can kind of keep on her radar the question about why and how and when they get to use the sidewalks.
Yeah, it seems like the two town projects are the worst violators,
I know.
like the granite
The granite
being
was
in the street and,
almost 3 years,
yeah.
closed all the parking, the sidewalk, and all that's there is like a construction trailer, and it's like,
Yeah.
why?
And then now this one, it's like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
I can't remember for like Granite, are they doing new parking and sidewalk? Well, probably new sidewalk is part of that on Granite for that project, right?
I mean,
Are
there was
they,
sidewalk
are they
there.
also doing parking as well?
I
No?
don't know. I have to look at the plan.
Cause that would move their construction fees out if they're all the way building. That would give a reason for why the construction fence is that far out into the road if they're rebuilding all that as part of their project.
I don't
It's
think
too
so.
far out.
I always.
Yeah.
Construction vehicles trying to fit in and out too, like that space is so small, I feel like I see the vehicle using that, I don't know, but that one, obviously it's too late for that one, but I have been curious also on the info center.
Is it approved as part of the building permit?
Correct, and we have a little bit, we just need to nail down when it should be approved, if it should be more planning and engineering, Public Works reviews them.
Yeah.
But, so it's not really planning, but we are trying to get more understanding and on track of, because we don't see a lot of consistency right now.
And having some guidance. to that
Exactly,
is
yeah,
gonna
which
be
is what we already have something
And
that.
to try to contain it on your site, not in like the street.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, we'll keep that on the radar as we work on those guidelines we're working on. Okay, upcoming, before I give you your upcoming projects, just so you're aware of what's in town hall right now being reviewed. I will let you know that Foots Rest has paid their water tap fees, their building fee, and Summit Fire fee. And the only one pending right now is sanitation, and they, I believe, are paying them this week or shortly. So you always ask what the status. I can tell you they're paying all of their fees in this month. Coming before you right now, submitted for Planning Commission, we have the final site plan for the triplex at 909 Lake Point. You saw a sketch plan pretty recently. That is held up for completeness check right now. We didn't have a drainage plan or ridge height calcs or some big ticket items. So it's submitted to town, you'll see it, but right now it's on hold for a while or till they give it that, and then we'll start the referrals. We also received a sketch plan application for 20 East Main Street, so across the street at Frisco Prime. That is in for a mixed use development. So Chris has 909, she's finishing that one. Emma is gonna be the planner on 20 East Main, and that one she's currently under a completeness check, doing the completeness check for that project.
Tearing down the building?
I don't know.
Yes.
Oh, you're designing it? Better look good. Yeah.
And adding mixed use.
Mhm.
Andy will not be participating in those items. So, so those are the only two planning commission submittals we have right now before us. We're expecting a couple more. We've talked about 2 applicants, but nothing has been submitted at this time besides those 2. So that's why we're also trying to do some of these code amendments just to do them. That was it for staff. Anything else from you two?
One question, what's going on with 602 Galena and 101 Main? I thought that was gonna start soon.
So 101 West Main is in pending LIHTC funding. So the application is submitted, I think we find out in October. So that one we're waiting to see if we get LIHTC funding for. The 602 Galena, we are waiting on modifications to the development agreement that the town has with NHP. Due to the financing that we've currently received and the way the project is shaping out to be developed, the town is going to, the ownership and financing, all of the details that are in a development agreement are being modified based on what both the town and NHP want. So unfortunately, that's taking way longer than we expected. We thought it would be at council, I think 2 months ago, and it still has not gotten to council to be modified. So at this time, we are not, there will be nothing occurring on that site for site work or demolition this winter. We are still hoping that we are planning on construction starting next summer on that one. You will see, this is just a side note, but the Planning Commission issued a conditional use a couple of years ago to have Unsheltered and Summit utilize that property. I believe they approached the town manager's office to ask to use it again this year. I don't know if that's been finalized, but I think you'll see that use operating out so that that use is using that property again. I don't know that for sure, but I think you'll see that again.
I think that's true. I live right there, but it's not really used that much. I was surprised
That's
that
true.
it's only very few vehicles only.
No negative impacts. for us
No.
in the neighborhood.
Good to hear.
Seem like- seem-
But I mean, if it had been like full, maybe it would have been different, but literally 3. So.
Yeah, they said they got like all of them filled though, and that they had huge demand for it.
I know, that is not what I experienced.
That is interesting because I know someone who called them and they said they were full out there last winter.
Maybe through the winter. Is it different?
That's what it was though there, because in the summer they're at the marina.
I just felt like maybe I was expecting so much more since they kept saying it was full and it just didn't feel full.
Well, that's good feedback on the conditional use at least, so you know what you issued isn't impactful.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn. Second. Third.
Seeing none?
Is the street closed this Saturday for a race?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Like you're there?
Yeah.
It's so happy. Oh my
Put it on
gosh.
sale.
It's at the historic.
That is so
park.
awesome. That is an incredible proposal right there. Fancy.
But they're not doing zippers.
Oh, zippers are the to pay.
Anything but zippers. I was like, that's the 2 things I need. to
I
know.
know. Dumb.
Have a nice evening, everyone.
Okay, you were gonna tell me
Yes,
the
so,
drama.
yeah, because we've had people trying to run the Rocket Zippers.
Right.